Hey guys, what's going on? Megan here. So, East Africans are such a small percentage of the world population, yet they dominate over 90% of long distance events. In fact, they have over 90% of world records, specifically Kenyans and also Ethiopia and surrounding countries. Well, why is that? Let's find out. All right, so obviously, this is Fun Fact Friday. The previous episodes were on strongman competitors, while the majority of them are European, mostly Nordics. Then I did one on blacks, why they dominate most fast twitch based sports such as bodybuilding and sprinting. And I did one on Samoans and Pacific Islanders and their dominance in rugby and why they're overrepresented in the NFL as a percentage of the population, of course. And the most recent one was on Mexicans, Hispanics, Latinos, and why they dominate lightweight boxing. So if you haven't seen those yet, check them out. And as always, a disclaimer, I'm tired of repeating this shit, but I have to put it in all my videos because there's always this one fucker in the comment section that gets butthurt. So first of all, this video is not for everybody. You gotta have a sense of humor. You gotta have thick skin. You gotta be open-minded, and you gotta be pretty much fact-based, right? This video is not for people who are sensitive, too serious, and are very close-minded, right? Especially not you victim mindset motherfuckers, right? So the social justice warriors, the Marxists, all you guys would get butthurt every time you hear race or every time you hear anything about the difference between people. Get lost, right? This video is not for you. I say this every fucking time, but yet I still see you in the comment section. You guys don't understand how much I can't stand this society, man. Everyone gets butthurt. I mean, everyone over every little thing. So once again, I'm just gonna skip your comments if I see you in the comment section. So again, if you're one of those motherfuckers, just dislike the video, then eat shit and die. Alright, so remember, whenever I mention race or populations, guys, I'm just referring to different groups of people, right? We all related, right? We all came from the same fucking ancestors somewhere in East Africa, and we migrated to the rest of the world, right? Some went on and colonized Europe, Middle East. You got my Indian motherfuckers here. You got the Asians. You got the Australians. You got the North and South Americans, and you got the fucking Eskimo motherfuckers and shit, right? So we all the same. We all came from the same family. We just look different, and we have different characteristics based on the different environments we evolved in. It's fine. It's just natural selection, right? That doesn't mean one race is superior. That doesn't mean one group of people is superior. It just means we all adapted to our environments, right? And once again, these are all the different environments that we had to adapt to: desert, tundra, grassland, all this shit, right? So you can't tell me that humans are gonna, travel the globe, adapt to vastly different climates, and all come up looking the same, right? It's just not gonna happen, right? So that's why we have different features. That's why we have some have white skin, obviously for vitamin D absorption in the north. Some have darker skin, wide noses, flat noses, fucking you name it, right? We all have our own adaptations, our own superpowers. In fact, like I said, eventually once I have time, I'm gonna make a video where I show you guys all the different adaptations that happen throughout the globe, right? I know every single one of them. You guys know I'm a nerd when it comes to shit like this. I love studying cultures, different people. I get excited over this shit. So again, when I have time, I'll make one, right? Like a massive superpower video. All right, I'm gonna skip the natural selection slides. I gotta put these on every time because, like I said, there's always new viewers. But long story short, again, bringing out the Microsoft Paint ghetto skills. In order for you to understand the reasons behind our differences, you gotta understand natural selection, right? So obviously in this example, you could tell who's gonna survive on the left side, right? Obviously the green mice because they're better camouflage. He's gonna get his shit snapped up. He's gonna get his shit snapped up. He's gonna get his shit snapped up, right? Whereas on the right side, it's the complete opposite, right? These guys are gonna survive. These guys are gonna get fucked up, right? Again, natural selection, right? Because they're better camouflage. It has nothing to do with, oh, I'm better than you because I'm red. I'm better than you than I'm this. No, right? So all you race baiters out there, black or white, sick of both of y'all. Differences in populations are mainly due to who gets to survive and who gets to clap the most cheeks. That's it, right? Same thing with Bergman and Allen's rule, right? In the north where it's colder, you're gonna have, these animals are gonna have thicker fur, they're gonna have shorter extremities, and they're gonna be stockier. Whereas where it's very hot and sunny, especially in the lower latitudes, you're gonna have the exact same animal, right? But you're gonna have longer ears, longer limbs, and a more slender body. We see this all throughout nature, right? And it also applies to humans. There's a reason why people in the north, where it's freezing cold, look vastly different than the people who are near the equator or live in the tropical forest. And obviously, same slide from the previous video. You guys already know the deal, right? There's a reason why this gorilla is going to be bigger than the ones living here because you have limited resources here and you have a fucking predator, right? So he's gonna be the one clapping the chicks on this island. Whereas these guys don't need to compete as much because again, plenty of resources, no predators, so the females have a lot of choice. Whereas here, he's just gonna bully all the small guys, right? So the gorillas here are gonna be a lot bigger because obviously you have to be a lot bigger to hog the resources and fight off the predators. Whereas here, there's no main pressure for increased muscle mass or increased size. All right, so back to the East Africans, right? And again, like I said, it's East Africa, mainly Kenya, but also the surrounding countries, right? Ethiopia, Sudan, stuff like that. But why do they dominate the long distance scene so fucking much? To give you some crazy perspective, some crazy stats, the top 25 best times, right, for the marathon are from East Africa. That is insane, guys. Mainly from Ethiopia and Kenya, right? Small percentage of the world population. And keep in mind, this is not one of those, well, maybe they're the only ones doing it. Fuck no. Marathon is worldwide. Every country does it. In fact, it was mainly a Western event, right? Mainly a Western sport. Right? I mean, the name is marathon, right? Greek origin. But these guys have the top 20. So they have 100%. So go online and look at the top 25 best marathon times. All East African. That's not a coincidence. Even if you look at the 3,000 meters, 19 of the last 25 winners. Top 25 world record for the 3,000 meters. 19 out of the 25 are East Africans. And what makes it even crazy is that they're mainly from a tribe, right? The Kalenjin tribe, right? So it's not just all Kenyans or all East Africans, right? It's mainly the small ass tribe, right? So they're less than 0.06% of the world population, which is ridiculous, right? They're only like 10% of Kenya, right? And they make up over 70% of the winners. So obviously it's a genetic thing, right? Because if it wasn't, then it'll be all Kenyans, all East Africans. It's a very, very, very small tribe. All right, so once again, this is the map of almost all the different populations on the planet. And again, the winners are right here, right? Now, what makes these guys so special? Obviously, we know it's not just poverty, right? It's not like, oh, well, they have to run to make money because, again, there's a lot of poor regions in the world and they don't produce, they don't dominate long distance running. Some say, well, it's because selective breeding. Wrong. The Atlantic slave trade was mainly West Africans, not East Africans. And as I mentioned in my previous videos, once the Human Genome Project was complete, the whole selective breeding myth was absolutely destroyed because they actually found out that the opposite stands, meaning people who are actually never a part of the Atlantic slave trade, so the West Africans who actually never left, actually have a better fast twitch and muscle building profile than African Americans. And I would explain the reason why. It's mainly due to malaria and stuff like that. But anyway, I go into more detail in the Black Genetics video. Some say, well, it's because they used to run to school since they were kids. Wrong, because almost all the poor people in East Africa and Kenya and all that also run to school or walk to school since they were little. Yet only a very small tribe dominates long distance running. And in fact, a lot of the world champions grew up right next to the motherfucking school. Some say, well, maybe it's because they're in Africa and they used to fucking run around and shit and chase animals, which obviously makes no fucking sense because then the majority of the African tribes will have that advantage when they don't. It's clearly a very small tribe in East Africa, very small tribe. Like I said, they're only like 10% of Kenya. So, how come the other Africans don't have that advantage? Some say, oh, maybe it's because they just have a lot of slow twitch muscles, which they do. But again, keep in mind, all marathon runners are slow twitch dominant. So that's not the reason. So what's the main reason? Well, number one, it's very simple. Number one, first of all, you gotta understand, these guys have longer legs, which obviously gives you an advantage running. They have skinnier legs. Keep in mind when I say longer legs, it's relative to their torso, relative to their body. Skinnier legs, the legs are lighter. For those of you who don't know, the heavier legs, the legs are lighter and weigh much less, which obviously makes running a lot more efficient. And here's a big one here. They have very, very long Achilles tendons, right? So running for them is pretty much like a spring, right? Whereas most people have to dig into the ground as they're running. These guys are just fucking hopping about, right? Very, very, very great combination for running. On top of the fact that they have narrower hips, right? Which most black people have. Again, that's back to what I mentioned earlier with natural selection, right? Allen and Bergman's rule kicks in. They have less overall body mass and obviously a higher center of gravity, right? So all these things combine to make them the perfect fucking runners. And there's this picture that I found online, where this guy was comparing his calves to East African runners. Look at the difference in calf insertions. Look at the difference. Look how long their fucking Achilles tendons are compared to the other guy who has massive calves, but that are obviously horrible for long distance running. It's just more metabolic efficient to run when you have these features. Keep in mind, these guys are running for fucking hours. Now, once again, that doesn't mean that you're not going to find a white person or an Asian person where, that kind of phenotype. It just means a lot more of them are concentrated in East Africa. All right, next. Reason number two, high altitude. I mentioned that in the video on boxers, right? These guys live at high altitude, as high as 7 to 10,000 feet, which obviously anyone who knows a thing or two about physiology knows the effects that high altitude has on endurance. In fact, that's the reason why a lot of athletes go to train at high altitude to gain an advantage in the competitions. Well, these guys live there. They live there, they train there, they sleep there. And they've lived there for centuries after centuries, right? So they are very adapted to high altitude. High red blood cells, high hemoglobin, higher VO2 max. In fact, that's the reason why that one tribe has an advantage over the rest of Kenya, even though they're all in fucking Kenya, right? Because that one tribe actually lives at a much higher altitude. So it's a combination of all these factors, right? You can't just have, not only they have the perfect body for running, but they also have the perfect high altitude adaptations. Next, the actinin 3 gene, which I mentioned previously, right? Now, again, this to show you how lucky these guys are. Most people that are endurance based actually have the XX version, the shitty version of the actinin 3 gene. I'm not going to explain it again because I explain it in almost every fucking video. But pretty much, if you have the RR version, your body makes actinin 3. It's a protein that's in your fast twitch muscles, and it makes your fast twitch muscles stronger. It allows them to produce more force. You can recover faster from training. Now, even though running is mostly a slow twitch based sport, remember, these guys are actually doing long distance running in a time. So there's also an element of speed. So your fast twitch muscles do come in to an extent. And sure enough, look where East Africans are when it comes to actinin 3 genetic profile. I mean, look at this. This is insane. 90% of them have the good version, not the shitty version, the good version of the actinin 3. Obviously, you can see here, West Africans, so people that were not a part of the Atlantic slave trade, have the highest. Next, you have Jamaicans. Next, you have African Americans, and then the rest of the world, right? And East Africans are here. Whereas most of the competition in long distance running have the XX version, right? So they have an advantage, even on their fast twitch muscles, which is an insane combination for running. Lighter body, high altitude adaptations, plus a preferential actinin 3 profile. Insane. Reason number 4, the Kalenjin. Again, back to the one small tribe that dominates all these running events. These guys have a huge history of being cattle raiders. For those of you who don't know, cattle was a huge part of these guys' lives, right? Your wealth was pretty much measured by how much cattle that you own. Same thing with them, the other tribes, the Maasai tribes and stuff like that. And these guys were cattle raiders, right? So they will run for miles at a time, right? They were usually started at night, but they would run for miles at a time, up to 100 miles sometimes. They would go to the neighboring tribes, steal their fucking cattle, and bring it all back, right? So they had to do this at blazing speed. Can you imagine running at night for miles at a time, finding the other tribe's cattle, and having to bring it all the way back to your tribe without getting caught? You had to have insane endurance to pull that feat off. And sure enough, natural selection kicks in, right? Because obviously the ones who are better adapted to that kind of lifestyle are the ones that are going to bring back the cattle, increase their status, have the most wives, clap the most cheeks, and have the most kids, right? Again, that's how it works. So not only they had all these crazy adaptations, but then you add the natural selection from, again, the whole cattle raiding on top of that. And it's funny because even the other tribes in East Africa who are also very good runners also have a history of cattle raiding, right? So again, so it's not a random fucking theory out there. And last but not least, you gotta look at cultural factors that I mentioned almost every video, right? Pressure from other sports is another reason why they're dominating running, because again, you're not gonna see them in the NFL, right? The NFL is dominated by populations that have higher muscle mass, such as Northern Europeans and West African descendants, right? African Americans. You're not gonna see them, doing strongman, right? That's just dominated by the Nordics, right? And also the East Europeans. You're not gonna see them in, well, they do play soccer, right? But again, soccer is dominated mainly by Hispanics, who also dominate, lightweight boxing. Basketball dominated by Eastern Europeans and obviously African Americans or West African descendants. So again, you're not gonna see a lot of Ethiopians and Kenyans and Tanzanians here. With some exceptions, of course, such as Manute Bol, tall ass motherfucker. Weightlifting, again, dominated by Eastern Europeans and Asians. And you damn sure not going to see them in fucking rugby, right? Samoans have that shit on lock, right? So that leaves very little sports, right, for East Africans, which is pretty much soccer and obviously endurance running. But this is where they really shine, right? So you have to look at cultural factors as well. All right, that's it. So those are the top 5 reasons. 1, you have the fact that they have the perfect fucking anatomy for running. 2, they don't have the shitty version of the actinin 3 gene, which the competition definitely has. So even though long distance running is a slow twitch dominant sport, you still have a speed element to it. And that's where the actinin 3 gene comes in. Next, you have the fact that they live literally at high altitude for centuries. 4, you have the tradition of cattle raiding, which obviously further selects the best of the best runners and allows them to pass on their genes. And last but not least, as I just mentioned, there's not as much pressure from other sports, right? The different races and populations just dominate all the other niches. All right, I say, guys, when I have time, I'm going to make another one in the coming weeks on, let's see, I haven't done wrestling, right? Europeans dominate wrestling. I want to mention why, as well as they also dominate weightlifting, right? Like I mentioned earlier. So I'm going to make a video probably on that. What else? There's the IQ video that's going to trigger a lot of fucking people, but I'm going to make anyway. And let's see. We'll see. Again, just comment below. I'm going to make a whole list of all the different adaptations and make a video for each. All right, guys? So see you in the comment section. All right, guys, don't forget to like or share the video, subscribe and hit the bell, and buy my HSP Nucleus Overload Training Program. It's the ultimate program for maximum muscle growth. It includes full body workout splits, bro splits, push-pull, home workouts, you name it. Also comes with a complete guide for macros, nutrition, fat loss, muscle growth, hormones, including a meal plan. It's pretty much all my 16 years of experience condensed into one fucking book. You're also going to get free copies of any future edition. So visit Team3DAlpha.com and you can use the 40% off coupon code Nucleus Overload. Or you could just buy the shit at full price. Alright, guys, I'm out of here.